In this clip, we're going to be looking at direct and inverse proportion. Remember, proportion means a certain type of relationship between two quantities. If two things are in direct proportion, then as one of them increases, the other also increases. Typical graphs for direct proportion would look like this. For example, some people's pay is in direct proportion to the number of hours they work. As they work more hours, their pay increases. If two quantities are inversely proportional to one another, then as one thing increases, the other thing decreases. A typical graph would look like this. A typical example would be thinking about moving away from a light source. As the distance from the light source increases, then the brightness of the light seen decreases. Here are three typical exam questions. If we look at them, we'll notice that they all have something in common. They all tell you that the things are proportional. Here it says directly proportional. Here it just says proportional, and if it says this, then you can assume that it's direct proportion. And here it says inversely proportional. So these questions are easy to spot on an exam. Let's have a look at how we tackle this kind of question now. The first line tells us that y is directly proportional to x. So we can write y, x, and there's a special sign that goes in between them for proportion. It looks like this. Now this isn't an infinity sign, notice that it's open at this end. Whenever you see this sign, you can swap it for equals k, where k is going to be a constant, and we keep the x on the end there. So we now have y equals kx, so y is something times x. Now this is the only difficult part of proportion questions. Once you've written this line and swapped the proportion symbol for equals k, the rest of it is as straightforward as this. I'm told that y is 28, so I'm going to change the y for 28. And I'm told that x equals 7, so I'm going to change the x for 7. Now remember, kx means k times x, and I know that x is 7. Now I can divide both sides by 7 to find out what k is. So I've got 28 over 7 equals k, and that tells me that k is equal to 4. We call this the constant of proportionality, and now that I've worked it out, I can use it to write an equation connecting y and x. I use this line here to help me do this. So from this line, I get that y equals k, which I know is 4, x. So this is the equation connecting y and x. Let's look at this question now. It starts with y is proportional to. So as soon as I see that, I can write y with my proportion symbol. I'm told it's proportional to the square of x. So that means x squared. Remember, whenever you have this symbol, you can replace it with equals k. So we've got y equals kx squared. Now y is equal to 5, so I can put that here. And x is equal to 4, so I've got k times 4 squared. So 5 is equal to k times 4 squared, which is 16. Now to find k, I can divide both sides by 16. So I've got 5 over 16 equals k. Now I can use this and this line to give me an equation linking y and x. So I've got y equals k, which is 5/16, and then x squared. Now I've got my equation linking x and y. But if you look at the question, you'll notice that although in this first one it asked me for that equation, in this second one it actually doesn't. I still have to work it out though, because I'm being asked to find the value of y when x equals 8, and I'm going to have to use this equation to help me do this part. So to find the value of y when x equals 8, I'm going to substitute 8 for x in this equation. So y equals 5/16 times by 8 squared. So y is 5/16 times 64. I can now see that 16 goes into 16 and into 64, so I can cancel. 16 goes into 16 once, and it goes into 64 4 times. So I've got 5/1 times 4. Now that's the same as 5 times 4, so y is 20. And this is the value of y when x equals 8, so I've now answered the question that I'm being asked. Now in this final question, I'm told that y is inversely proportional to x. I start by writing this very similarly, y and then the proportion sign. But for the inverse bit, I've got to put 1 over x instead of just x. This is how we write something when it says it's inversely proportional. Now remember, we can replace this symbol with equals k, and that looks slightly different here as well. We have y equals k over x. That's the hard bit done. Now we're going to start substituting. So I'm told that x is 2 and I'm told that y is 6. So I've got 6 equals k over 2. I can now multiply both sides by 2 to find k. So 6 times 2 equals k, and that tells me that k must be 12. Now using this line, I can write my equation. Y equals k, which is 12, over x. Notice again that the question doesn't actually ask me to find the equation, but I've got to do it to be able to answer this part here. Find the value of y when x equals 4. So I'm now going to put x equals 4 into this equation. So y equals 12 over 4. And 12 divided by 4 is 3, so y is equal to 3. Here's a question for you to try now. Press pause and have a go at it. When you're ready for the answers, press play. Here are the answers. Here's another question for you to try. Don't let the fact that the letters aren't x and y put you off. You still set it up in the same way, but you're going to be using D and S. Press pause and have a go. When you're ready, press play. Here's the answer. Here's another question for you to try. Press pause and have a go. When you're ready for the answers, press play. Here are the answers. Here's another question for you to try. Press pause and have a go. When you're ready for the answers, press play. Here are the answers. Here's a question in context. You'll still be using the same skills that you've used so far in this clip. You are allowed to use a calculator for this question. Press pause and have a go. When you're ready, press play. Here's the answer. When you read this question, you'll see that it says that t is proportional to the square root of a. So your first line should look like this. Don't be put off, you just need a square root on it, and then you carry on in the usual way. Now here's a different type of question for you. With all the skills you've learnt in this clip, you should be able to answer it. There's actually no calculation involved this time. You just need to match up each of these equations here with the correct statement. Press pause and have a go. When you're ready, press play. Here are the answers.